Urban today, and you know that there was U.S.-Africa Summit. Well, the vice chairperson there, Vice President of UPC, has gone on and on about why President Museveni is silent ever since he came back from the U.S. But well, someone from Urban at 9, a colleague of mine, Joshua Poro, was at the U.S.-Africa Summit, and he's here to talk us through about what took place there. Joshua, you're welcome from the US.
Thank you, Samson.
Yeah, first and foremost, you know how these things work.
Okay.
Where are the goodies?
I had them supplied down at the office yesterday. If you missed, then I'm going to get you a portion of your run.
No, I'll have the watch when we're done with this.
Forget about this one. This is, just forget about
now
it. Now
that we know it's not a present, I guess I would have that one.
Surely, I will offer it for you.
So, Joshua, what exactly was the US-Africa Summit, and what were the highlights as far as you're concerned?
Well, the US-Africa, actually it was the US-Africa Leaders Business Forum, which was basically to look at the business and the future prospects of the African continent. If you looked around, I met a couple of US government officials, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Defense, and so on. And all of them are making points like, you see, in the next 10 years, Africa is going to have 12 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world. And President Barack Obama re-echoed something and said that the solutions for African problems are in Africa and not in the US. So right now what is happening is they are withdrawing from giving Africa help to giving Africa intellectual help. They give you thought, they give you advice on how things are done. But how they have started it is actually signing out deals to African countries. You've heard of about the $10.6 billion that was signed for infrastructure development. That is for roads, for dams, and so on and so forth. Then the World Bank also gave about $10.7 billion. I had a meeting with the Vice President for World Bank in charge of Africa. And they have also made a couple of projections onto the African continent and the development that we are likely to take on, in the next 10 years. So basically what the business forum was trying to do is to bring a cohesion between African countries and the US continent, you see.
So are you saying that there is now a conceptual shift from aid to something like real partnerships? You can see images there.
Yes,
of our man in Washington.
Yeah,
that's
that is President Barack Obama's podium, and I was talking to civil rights organizations, and most of them.
At that point, what were you telling them about Uganda, and what were they asking?
Well, basically, what was happening is there were different countries present at the time, representatives from different countries. There happened to be the one from Uganda. That was at Clark Atlanta University, the first black university. So what we were talking about was how governments have actually imposed serious laws and regulations on civil society, and that's because civil society is putting a check. Yeah, I actually had a working office at the Pentagon, so that's where I got to meet the Minister of Defense. Behind me right there is the Oval Office.
Okay, so you're saying?
I was saying that so many governments in the world, look at Russia. Russia has put almost a complete ban on civil society. So basically we were trying to look at how best can civil society help in the fight against corruption, because the US government is one which is so much is so much in for civil society, because they're the people who are putting the checks against corruption and all that kind of rule of governance, or the rule of law that many countries do not have. President Barack Obama made mention that any aid that is going to be given to the layman in Uganda is going to start from the bottom rather than start from the top and people pocket it and eventually it's nowhere. So basically it's going to start from below, and they put checks and systems in place to make sure that these things actually reach the intended beneficiaries.
Many of us in Africa were very hopeful when Barack Obama, son of our soil, became president of the United States. But as he ages out his last term, there are feelings around the continent that we haven't taken out of Barack Obama's administration as much as we hope. You had this man speak. Is that hope that we might get something, a false hope?
Well, I had an off-the-record meeting with him and Secretary Kerry, and it so happens that, you see, the problem, or the things that the mistake President Barack Obama made was to campaign his way to Parliament and not campaign for his Congress, his party. You see, like here in Uganda, we have the NRM caucus that has the majority in Parliament, and when they want to pass anything, they can easily do that. But in the US, Barack Obama's party has a minority. And
so
Congress
he has a Congress that is out to make sure he doesn't do anything.
Exactly. So they're out there to make sure he fails. So if he has to succeed, then he has to do something through an executive order. And that is what was being questioned later, just before I left to come back to Uganda. He was being questioned.
The Republican Party wanted to do something not very far.
Yes, they wanted to
whether to impeach him.
Exactly.
Or to basically open something against him on how he has used
the executive powers. Yes, but I was in a press conference with him, and his defense was he is bound by the Constitution. He is doing everything he is doing by the Constitution. So the thing is, President Barack Obama has majorly been barred by the Congress to perform. He would have actually performed way much better, but because Congress is slowing him down and barring him performing as good as he would have performed.
What did you have in the U.S.? You are basically sounding like an attorney for Barack Obama. What did the guy give you?
He didn't give me anything. I'm not an attorney for Barack Obama. I'm just an open-minded journalist.
But he has presence. Anyone around him comes up defending him.
Not everyone. He has that sense of humility. He is so down to earth. I would like to say that meeting him is quite easier than meeting President Museveni.
I've been in very, very close inches with him myself sometime in the recent past. But let me ask you. You've been in the U.S.
Yep.
I was there in February. Is our image so bad that government has to sign a deal with some American company called Mercury at the tune of $600,000 for us to deal with the Ugandan image?
I don't think that.
Did you get a sense that our image has become
our image
that
is
bad?
very bad. I have, and it's not bad because we have done anything bad. It is simply bad because we signed the anti-gay law. You know, I had a couple of talks with different Americans. I was at the U.S. State Department, and I had a couple of talks with them. And you know, out there, Uganda has that image of the worst country where any gay person can be. That's the image they have.
Is that true? Because when you have a chat with Republicans and Tea Party members of the Tea Party, the conversation you get about Uganda and the law you're mentioning is different from the one you get from Democrats. So you probably might have been in typical Democrat company. I was in typical Republican company.
Yes.
So is this not also the image of Uganda also not divisive in the U.S., whether you're speaking to Republicans or Democrats?
I think, the image could be divisive, but what happens is that a lot of people speak without information. They speak because they are not informed, and they speak because they
Which
think
is very true of Americans.
It is what they have heard. So when they say that Uganda is the worst place for any gay people or any gay, I asked them, so can you just give me an example of one gay person who has been persecuted in Uganda before you judge and say, this is the worst place where we can be? So basically, that's the only image we have.
But you see, isn't it true that generally Americans are protected from information from the world?
Very, very, very much.
Know everything about. I think for most of them, America seems to be the world, isn't it?
Actually, most Americans do not know anything outside America. Let me just give an example. I always watch CNN, their NBC, ABC, and MSNBC, and so on and so forth. But their news is American-based news. For things that happen in different parts of the world, you will rarely see it in America. For example, when the Ebola patients are being shipped in from Liberia to America, you do not know how much news that made in America. Every advertisement screen on the street was showing that video. From the moment the plane landed and there were helicopters in the air to take the whole video from the airport to the CDC center.
Not necessarily Ebola in Africa, but the one American.
The one American.
Who has Ebola coming from Africa.
Exactly. So that's where the point thing. Most of their news is American-based news. The things they hear is just hearsay. For example, when the anti-gay law was nullified.
We're running out of time, Joshua. Very quickly, finish that point and one last word in a line.
Yeah, surely. I was just giving an example of when the anti-gay law was nullified by the Constitutional Court. That was the headline story on the Washington Post. Okay. That was what was the headline story. So basically, the image they have about our country is quite a different image. But what I would like to say is, I think Africa has a really bright future because African presidents are trying to learn and see the future we have. And now our eyes have opened and Africans are stopping to export non-finished products, and they are now trying to export finished products so that we can have value added onto our products. And I think Africa is going to be in a big place in the next 12 years.
Brilliant. The Urban at 9 crew has missed you, and they are probably glad that you're back.
Well, I'm back, and tonight I'm going to be on the air.
Well, that was Joshua Poro, fresh from the US, and I've got to get out of here so that the guys of sport come in, and when we get out of here, there's a watch chronograph that we're going to be fighting for. I'll let you know how that went.